AI, DeFi. Wow, amazing. You know what would make them even more amazing? Digital identity solutions. Here to teach us more about that, Chris from Civic and Ryan from DAIN. Let's give it up.
Thank you. All right. Hello. Can everybody hear us? Awesome.
Everybody.
So Chris, do you want to start off telling us a little bit about you at Civic and everything you guys do in the space?
Yeah, sure. So Civic, you might have heard of us. We've been in the identity space since 2015. We've been focusing on providing tooling really on two different dimensions. We provide something called Civic Pass, which is usable by any dApp and any builder across 11 chains. Civic Pass has behind it verified credentials, and so those credentials could be anything from ID proofing, liveness, uniqueness, any of those ID elements that then can be associated with a wallet, and that wallet can then be used to gain access to things like DeFi protocols, dApps, NFT mints and drops, anything that requires some level of permissioning. That permissioning is tunable, so what that means is you can actually say, hey, for this one use case, we only need a CAPTCHA, but for something much more complex, we're gonna crank up the requirements. So we've been building on Solana since the very beginning. Actually, our first office was right around the corner from the Solana office in San Francisco. So we've been in the space for a long time. We co-wrote the Sol DID. I know you've written some Sol DID stuff as well. So we have some stuff in common there. And yeah, we're really here to talk about what's next for identity, given the fact that right now AI is changing the game completely. And so I'm the CEO at Civic. Our co-founder is Vinny Lingham, and he is chairman of the board, and John Smith is our CTO. But really, we've been waiting for blockchain to be ready for us. We've been ready for blockchain for a long time, but now finally, I think there's a real need for identity. So I'm psyched to chat about it.
That's awesome.
And please, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm Ryan. I'm one of the co-founders of DAIN, and we're building basically an autonomous internet for agents and AI agents. So kind of on the opposite side of what Chris is doing, we're basically trying to create a platform for the bots to thrive. And a lot of the same issues that we're dealing with Cybils that Chris has to deal with is what we have to deal with as well when we're kind of allowing those in our systems. So it's super great. I think AI presents a lot of interesting challenges for DeFi. What do you think the biggest challenges that AI presents, and what do you think also are the biggest things that AI could be super helpful with in the DeFi space?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think there's I'll start with the benefits, I think, actually, because there are so many tools that I think the average trader could avail themselves of that right now they don't have access to. And let's be honest, big trading firms, banks, high-frequency traders, they've been using bots forever, for decades, right? These things have been out there, they exist. Maybe they're a little sophisticated more now. Maybe they're able to be dynamically self-tuning, and there's a whole bunch of stuff that comes out of that. But the rank and file trader hasn't had access to these things. So I actually think having AI available for traders to get access to trading strategies they wouldn't otherwise have, to be able to interact with protocols at scale and with speed, and on chains that are low latency, low fee, that's awesome. These are all good things. Now on the flip side, unfortunately, because it is such a wide open ecosystem, and because now with Dencun on the Ethereum side of the house, and Solana's always been fast and cheap, the ability to spin up these AI bots to do, if you're doing MEV as a miner, or you're going to do front running the market or whatever, people get burned. And this is when regulators start to perk their ears up, because when people start losing money, and it's not just traders, it's mom and pop traders, little guys, that's when the regulation starts to bite. And I think we have to recognize as an industry, you can't get away from regulation. AML, BSA, like Mika, all these things are going to require a certain level of compliance. So that I don't think it's a question of, is AI going to happen, or is it a good thing or a bad thing? It's a thing. We need to deal with it, and we need to put the tools in place so that we can do it responsibly. But you're much more savvy on that side of it. What do you think?
Yeah, I too agree. Is in terms of consumer access to DeFi, I think DeFi is a massive challenge, and I think just as AI has done with many other consumer products, it can simplify it, can make it easy, accessible, and also safe for users. I think something that AI presents is something that you probably use to identity verify is the ability to actually use AI to scan for security purposes, right? And if you're interacting with tons of different protocols and ecosystems all over, there's a large chance that one of the times you'll do it, something bad will happen, right? And you need a little sidekick beside you to tell you, okay, that's not going to let you happen, right? Because humans make mistakes. Machines do too, but less than humans. And I think it's valuable from a safety perspective, and it's also an accessibility perspective for everybody to utilize DeFi. In terms of that, using AI to actually secure, safety and identity and everything, we've actually noticed that, we're starting to see these deep fakes get very good, right? So we have AI that has an ability to recreate a human face, recreate identity documents. What, do you think are the biggest challenges there? What are you doing to kind of prevent that, as it's something that, we've seen all over the space now in the past year, and will probably become much worse?
Yeah, it's such a great question. I think AI hasn't invented the problem, but it's exacerbated the problem, and it's made it clear to a new audience that this has to be dealt with now. I mean, anyone who's here from the US, identity is broken in the US. You use your social security number for the most sensitive things you could possibly do, and it's out there, it's available, it's on the web. There have been so many hacks, and now with ID proofing, which is basically scanning your document, everybody here has done that for multiple exchanges. ID proofing is now no longer good enough. Guess what? It was never good enough, but now people are recognizing it's not good enough. Because if I can spin up an AI agent to create a document, and I can do a deep fake, and I can get that to match, unless you're checking that information against a government database on the back end, there's no way to verify that that person is authentically who they say they are. So instead of thinking of it that way, I think what we need to do is recognize it's broken, and then realize that there is a better way to do it. And that better way is to begin to think of identity as a matrix. And identity is going to be built up of multiple signals, and those multiple signals could exist on-chain. Okay, I own these 5 wallets, I own these NFTs, I've done these actions. It can exist off-chain. I've received, in the case of Civic ID, which we're going to show a little video at the end, but in the case of Civic ID, I've received a physical card. I've verified that I actually have custody of this card, and I'm able to tap it on my phone and bind it to my digital identity. And then I'm able to prove continuity, that I still am the same person over time. So I think it's a combination of on-chain signal, off-chain signal, Web 2 signal, Web 3 signal, from the physical world, from the digital world, bringing all of those things together, importantly, in a privacy-preserving way. Because we don't want to fix one problem and create a far bigger problem. So it's got to be user-controlled. It's got to be fully robust and compliant so that you can participate in things like DeFi, because otherwise they're going to shut it down, right? And nobody gets DeFi. So I think it's really important that we acknowledge it's broken and that there is a means to fix it. And that's really what the Civic identity system is all about, which brings together that digital, that mobile, and that physical aspect.
Yeah, that's great. I think, do you think of AI as kind of the catalyst towards getting us to all have, a unique identity and to be able to prove that we're human online? I mean, people have been working on it for a very long time, but to a normal consumer, they're like, I'm real, I just solved the CAPTCHA, right?
Right.
Do you think that, actually having AI, which is going to be able to just consistently break into all these systems and just mimic a human almost one-to-one, will be the thing that finally, breaks in and, requires everybody to have some type of digital identity?
I think so, because it's going to take a few bad hacks and a few bad fraud rings, and unfortunately, I think a lot of people are going to have to suffer in order for legislation finally to get done. And so to reset these systems is incredibly hard, because it's not just a federal system, it's a state system in the US, it's an international system. The good news is there are standards. There are things like, I don't know if you've heard of this term, but IAL standards. Basically, there are 3 levels. The lowest level is self-attested data, and that's what you're talking about. I am who I am because I said I am, or I prove something that I own something. IAL level 2 is I actually put a document behind it, a passport or a driver's license or something like that, which is now totally busted. IAL 2 is busted, right?
Yeah.
And then IAL 3, which is somebody actually has to take that document, maybe they're gonna scan it, maybe it's an NFC chip like our card at Civic, and they're gonna actually look at you, they're gonna look at the document, they're gonna do that comparison. So what we need to do is get to IAL level 3 for everybody, and once you have that identity, we then need to allow you to associate it with multiple blockchains, multiple wallets, where you can control, oh, I don't have that wallet anymore, I want to connect to that wallet. You can use it in Web 2, you can have a social login, and we need to start to bridge the ecosystems. But not only is it because of AI, I think blockchain now enables the solution.
Yeah. So you talked about like having the 3rd level, which is almost someone else kind of verifying your identity, right?
Right.
Something we're doing at DAIN is using basically, agents' interactions with each other to give them a global reputation, to kind of have a graph of, okay, who's interacting with who's real, who's not, who has a good reputation, who has a bad one. Do you think we'll see something similar, with ID protocols for humans, right? Where, individual websites can actually attest like this person was a good actor and then associate that with the user, and do we think that's how they'll grow? Kind of like a credit score, but for realness. Do you think that's something that will come up?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I think there's an existential risk for the likes of TransUnion, Experian, Equifax, LexisNexis, all of these Web 2 firms. That's what they're doing. They're correlating signal on the back end. Now, you don't know it as a consumer, but every time you swipe your card, every time you take out an auto loan or do any of these activities, they're building a credit score on the back end. Well, we need to now bridge that into the blockchain world. And so I think there will be a movement towards taking both that Web 2 signal and the Web 3 signal, putting it together. Now, the only thing that's tricky is like I could drop you an NFT.
Yeah, and you don't say it.
Exactly, and you don't have to accept it. So some of these safeguards have to be put in place so we're not unintentionally boxing people out of the ecosystem. But I absolutely think, yes, there is a new version of a social credit score. There's a new version of a financial credit score, and all of these things are coming much faster than people realize.
Yeah. Do you think, for these credit scores, do you think it'll be something more open, like basically, open predictors for looking at all the different blockchain data or something, associations of a user and figuring out their score, and something that will be tailored towards specific apps? Or do you think there'll be like specific providers like we've seen with Equifax, TransUnion, that will actually issue that credit score on behalf of a user?
I think it's going to be a combination of the two. I think there'll be an Equifax or Experian-like aggregator who says, we're going to take all that signal because it's hard to go look at every single on-chain transaction. They'll put it together, and they'll say, here's this mass. And then I think firms are going to build on top of that and say, we'll interpret the data, maybe using AI to do the interpretation and actually come out with some kind of a credit score or a result. And then companies like Civic, we're going to be the ones who say, is that a real person who's claiming that credit score? Or is this an agent even potentially who's out there doing activities on behalf of a person?
Yeah.
And that's where it gets really cool. And I know you're interested in that part.
Yeah. I think a lot of the stuff that we're doing is, when we look at identity, is attaching someone's specific, personal agent to a organization or to an individual, right? Like we can't have necessarily AI systems, even though they're able to completely autonomously be independent, right? We can't have them be independent and unattached to something. There needs to be some record back to whatever entity owns this, right? And I think that's where digital identity comes in, because you need some type of, okay, who owns this, right? Like imagine like an agent opening up a credit card. Yeah. Like it can't do it by itself. It needs someone that actually says like, look, this is mine. Whether it's an entity, an organization, a business, or whatever, or just an individual.
Yeah. 100%. Attribution back to the owner of an AI agent. I mean, it's two sides of the same coin, right? You want to prove I'm not AI, and I created this content on social media, and therefore you should trust it. On the other side, it's fine if it's AI, but there needs to be somebody accountable to say, at the end of the day, I made this trade, and I went through KYC, and I'm not in an OFAC sanctioned country, and that's really important. Otherwise, it will be shut down.
So when we look at like the onboarding process right now for new users to crypto, there's all this KYC, and it becomes like a challenge. It's almost like opening up a bank account just to buy.
Yeah.
Do you see kind of Civic as a pathway to where you only have to do that once, and then everything you interact with, that you'd basically use the same identity over and over again?
Exactly. Yeah. So our goal is to be the universal identity layer, which has a number of credentials behind it. So let's say you have one Civic ID card and identity. Behind that, you can have a driver's license, a passport, you've done uniqueness, you've done liveness, you own these 3 wallets, you participated in this NFT drop, you're a big trader. All of that stuff you control. And then at your option, you can choose to share just zero knowledge proofs that say, hey, I'm over 18, or I live in this county and I can vote, or whatever it is that you need to do to get credit, for example. But at the same time, you protect your privacy, but we still need that aggregation layer. So I think that's what's really missing in the ecosystem right now, and that's why we created the physical Civic ID card, is to bridge that digital to physical. And we're gonna show you a little video right now. You can see what that looks like. Otherwise, we're out of time, but thanks, Dane. Can we bring that up front of house? Thank you. So as it says here, if you want to check it out, thanks. If you want to check it out, visit civic.id, and you can sign up now to get first access to the Civic ID card.
Awesome.
Thanks,
yeah,
Dane.
It's a great talk.
Awesome.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.